Welcome on in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen as we bring you a Tuesday edition of the Full Court Press. Just barely got the video stream started in time.
Yeah, apologies. You know the term chickens and heads, something like that.
You've bit off more than you can chew. That's what happened. And your time management has been worse than mine this week.
Oh my word!
I'm usually pretty bad at time management.
I have taken it to a new level.
Yeah, you've managed to one-up me there. So Eric will actually probably have to sneak out for a couple of these segments. I might excuse him when we reveal the next player on the top 25 Aggies, so we can run off. If you want to hear his voice more, he's on KVNU. he's pulling double duty there.
Yeah.
So we'll
in the mornings and sort of in the afternoon.
Yeah, sort of in the afternoon. So he'll be jumping in and out here. This has been a good time for us to have another one of those interviews, but we kind of ran out of those.
No, this would have been the best week to use all that stuff.
just to give you a chance to sneak out while we turn the mics off for a second. But a lot of different things. Again, we're kind of in that space where we've gone back to the 2-hour show, but like, I don't know, like the calendar hasn't quite gotten going. And I got to be honest, I'm kind of jealous of the rest of the Pac-12 because I'm watching all of these other media people that I follow that are covering different teams. I try to follow beat reporters and whatnot and there's even a handful of fans of other teams that I follow that aren't necessarily in the media. And I'm watching these guys and they're like, at the practices for like Boise State, like there's media like at every Boise State practice. I don't know if Colorado State, they're putting out some content, but they're also being like really secretive about their starting quarterback. Jim Moore is doing the whole gamesmanship thing where it's like, we'll announce the starting quarterback at 4:02 on September 5th. And I presume their first game is at 4 p.m.
Probably when they kick off. Yeah.
So basically after the course saying 4:02, if their game starts at 4:02 is generous. Because that means the game will actually start on time, which will never happen in the in basically any American sport. But like most of these other programs I haven't like checked on like every single one, but every one that I'm looking into, like Fresno State, seems like there are at least people. I don't know. There's some film of it. Again, I don't know what the axis is exactly, but it seems like a lot of the other teams in the Pac-12 and like reporters get to like go and watch practice, and they're having like, here's our day 4 report of
who shined in the offense today.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I go back to Utah State's fall camp, press release. All practices are closed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, we'll do our best. Eric will go as he always does and sneak into practice and get interviews at the end. But it's just like, I wish, because like
I had full intentions of, and maybe if I can get this week kind of dialed in, I have full intentions of trying to get to some practices this week. It's been a little challenging.
Yeah, we'll see if you can actually make it.
We'll try to get it. It may be until next week before I actually get up to practice and get some interviews done. But it's in the very early stages. I know Utah State is trying to release some clips from time to time. They did share a clip of D'Angelo Mays snagging a pass out of the air, making a nice play on defense. But those are just piecemeal. They don't really give
it's
the,
a highlight
the full
here
picture.
Or there. I've gotten a clip of McKay Hillstead throwing a pass to Eli Wood. I've got D'Angelo Mays swatting the ball away. I suddenly can't remember which player he swatted away. I think the guy's name was Watson, I think. Then Nico Boncor made a really nice catch over the outstretched arms of Chapman Lewis.
Sorry, is it Boncor or Boncori?
It's probably Boncori.
Because I thought it was Boncor, and then I thought I heard somebody refer to him as Boncori.
Yeah, I think one of the...
At Utah State.
Yeah, I think it was either Eli Wood or Robert
and
I pronounced it Boncori. I just couldn't remember in the moment. So, yeah. We've had some, again, a play here or a play there, but that doesn't really tell us anything. It tells us that, this one guy made a really nice play, which all of them can make a really nice play. They're Division I athletes. These guys are in the top 1% of, athletics performance in the world. So yeah, of course they can. That sounds like a lot, but they're the top 1% of the world is a lot of people. So,
Yes.
So they are very likely in that 1% of athletics performance. But where we don't have, hardcore, we get to, it's like when we watched basketball practice, I was able to. There was something that I could watch and report on. We don't have anything like that for football. We're not going to until they do. I presume they're doing a fall scrimmage of some sort. I actually haven't double checked when they're doing that. I think they announced like a family fun day.
Yeah, that will be. It's later this month, and an opportunity to. I don't know if they'll do a full scrimmage, but they'll try to do some things on the field. Opportunities for fans to get interviews and interact with the players. And that's awesome. I would hope that they would do some sort of scrimmage. I think fans
they will. I mean,
are excited for that. They want to see what the team is like. I understand the desire for secrecy to kind of surprise your opponents with who you are, and they don't have film on what you're going to be. I understand that desire, but there should also be a desire about selling the program to the community. Like, you want the stands to be full. You really can't have it both ways. There needs to be some balance of getting fans excited about your team and your players. They can't do that if they just don't know. And that was clearly evidenced last year because everything was locked down in the spring. Everything was locked down in the fall. People just didn't know. Like, well, I don't know how this is going to work out. I'm not going to show up until I see what this team is like. And so it was one of the worst opening weekends opening games Utah State has ever had. So I think Bronco understands that. He tried to be a little bit more transparent and open in the spring because there's no spring portal anymore, so you can.
Yeah.
I
think the only reason he did was if they still had the spring portal, he would have been as secretive as he's ever been.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. Again, I can understand, Broncos focused on football. And it is both a good and bad quality for him.
Right, because at the end of the day, his mentality is, I need to protect my team. I need to improve and work on improving my team to get them to perform at their best. And if they win, and if they're doing their best, fans will come.
Yeah.
That's my job. Like, success on the field will yield fans in the stands. I can't argue against that. But fans also need to know and have a taste of what's to come.
Yeah. And I can't fault the methodology because it's worked. He revived BYU football. BYU football wouldn't be where it's at without him, or it would have taken a lot longer to get back to where they're at.
Longer, yeah.
Because that was a good program at one point before him, and it probably would have recovered without him. But certainly he got that kick started. And right now, I'd say, well, is there no hype for Utah State football? Well, they shattered their goal for season tickets. Like, they wanted to get 8,000 season tickets for football, and they increased their number of season tickets. Part of that may have been decreasing the number of tickets, but like the hype seems to be there. The desire to go watch Utah State football. I even went and perused the single game tickets for Idaho State. Well, it's not really sold out, and there's a couple of sections that have some big open chunks, but there's a lot of sections where there's only a handful of little green dots. So there's a decent chunk. Like, it's not going to be a sellout, but like for a month out, there's a decent number of seats sold for that Idaho State game. Again, an FCS game. So I don't think he's going to have the same, really poor opening that they had last year in terms of attendance, unless I just eyeballed it wrong when maybe I should actually go do a full count. But like, I don't know. It doesn't really seem to be hurting the desire to go see the team. And it's also hard to quantify, like, how much is this lack of information truly hurting the hype? And, does the July and August hype really, how much does that matter? Because, like, there are a lot of teams that put effort into that hype, and we want Utah State to put effort into that hype. It benefits us.
Right.
We get to talk about it on radio. We have a horse in this race, a dog in this fight. And I guess it's just a debate of, like, does it matter if you're hyping up the team, if you're allowing access to media and just as importantly, fans, media being able to pass that along to the fans, or in some cases, some practices are open to fans. Like you look at the NFL, fans attend NFL practices, and I think it is all the better. Like the NFL is far better off, I think, because they allow practices open to fans and media. But once you get into the second or third week, it only takes 1 or 2 weeks for that hype to build up. You see the team a couple of times, that hype returns. So it's like, I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling here, but it's like, I feel like there is definitely some value that can be made from this, again, July and August hype. But I think from Mendenhall's perspective, he's like, okay, once September hits, that hype will arrive.
Yeah, and it's not like they've been withholding people and like turning down interview requests. That hasn't happened. I mean, they've been really good. Just like if you want to, for the most part, they didn't allow like true freshmen to be interviewed last year. But
I think they were also
generally speaking,
you also had to meet a certain requirement, like their whole like behind the scenes like progression system. You had to reach a certain level in that to talk to the media.
Yeah, and that didn't really restrict too many athletes.
Yeah,
but there were a few that were like, I would have liked to talk to Chris Joe a few times last year because he had some great games. But it's not like Utah State is in Bronco Mendenhall's his coaching staff is like, no, we're not going to talk to anybody. We're locking this thing down. No, he is. Like I was able to go up and do lots of interviews last year. I just didn't get to really see a full practice, and so I couldn't really say like, oh, I can see how this player is really performing well, and Aggie fans, let's get excited about XYZ receiver or great play by these guys on defense. I couldn't do that. And so that's why we can hear from the players, but it also makes it a bit of a challenge for us in the interview process. Like, hey, I saw you doing really well, and whatever these drills are, explain how things are progressing, whatever. So we kind of have to ask questions in the blind, but it's okay to some degree. We still have that access if we ask for it. So they're not like totally shutting it down, but the access isn't quite like what we're seeing from other Pac-12 compatriots, which has us feeling a little jealous.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I'm jealous. Like I just straight up am. I'm jealous. I wish I could. And it comes from I'm not acting like I'm being altruistic and like Utah State's in the wrong. I just wish we could see this football team and get a better idea of what they're going to be in September before September arrives.
Yeah, well, and we take it upon ourselves. We feel like we kind of need to be a conduit for a lot of fans because not all fans can go, and they don't all have the time and availability to go and watch these practices and talk to these players and these coaches. So we kind of feel an obligation to be the representative of the fans at these opportunities, and then bring back what we've observed to share with them. So they have that. So it's not because we feel some obligation or right just because I've got a microphone in my face.
Yeah.
It's just we want to try to, because we know the fans want to know. And so we want to be able to share that information. We get asked about it. So we want to be able to provide answers.
Yeah.
And to at least pass along what we've observed as well.
Yeah. And the important thing about all this is that if Utah State wins, then everything's fine.
Yeah,
and
winning solves a lot of problems.
If they win, it means that the secrecy was worth it. Not so much secret, like you don't get to talk about who the standout players are because I don't know Bronco wants to hide who the standout players are. Last year it was because he was terrified of anyone transferring, and heck, even last year in fall camp where they weren't really doing anything, he didn't want the week one opponent to know who was starting at like any position. And I don't know if it's that important going up against Idaho State.
Yeah, because once that game happens, the tape's out there.
Yeah.
And so Washington and Utah, they're going to see and know what Utah State's all about after that game. Is Idaho State, is there like an advantage they might be able to get? Is it really going to make that much of a difference for Idaho State?
Yeah, if that's the difference between you performing well or not against Idaho State, you got bigger problems. But yeah, if Utah State wins, then it's all worth it. If the attendance is still good, which last year it wasn't, that was why Bronco got and I think deserved criticism for the way he handled last offseason. in fall camp. I understood why he did it in spring.
Right. Yep.
In fall camp, I think that his lack of transparency cost the university ticket sales.
Yep.
I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. If the attendance is still good and they win games, then it's all worth it. And his job is to win football games, and he doesn't seem to think his job is to promote the program. So, but in the end, if he wins football games, that's what's in his contract. And if he does that, then all's well and good. The program will be healthy. The fans will love the team. If the team is winning, that's the most important thing. But sometimes you wish the coaches would go out of their way a little bit more, especially where we've seen that in some of these other programs where they're...
And we've seen that closer to home. Like, just not that many years ago, every practice was open to fans.
Yeah.
Now, there really weren't very many who showed up on a regular basis because I'd go up and I'd sit there for a while and watch practice. There might be one or two other dudes. But the other guys who usually were there were other media people. But the invitation was there. You can come up. You can watch what we're doing in practice. Yeah, we want you to see what we're doing so you understand our method, to understand who these players are, understand our process. Its pendulum has swung the other way, but I understand reasons. And if it turns out to be that this is an awesome football team, okay, great. But it will take some time for that to translate for fans to see it and then react to it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to react to what you don't know. And while the team showed signs at the end of last season where they were looking, like a solid football team, they still, had a losing record last year. So it's not like they've made huge leaps and bounds where it's like this huge momentum with all these ticket sales and everybody's super excited to go see them again. There's still some level of uncertainty, especially because we don't know what's going on with the offense and how good is the quarterback.
Yeah, the best week one attendance numbers have always been the year after a great season.
Yeah.
2022, 2019, 2013. Like, those are all the seasons. Like, when Utah State has a really good season, they have really good week one attendance numbers. Those tend to be the best, but you can also kind of artificially inflate the hype. But we'll see how it goes. I think Bronco Mendenhall has injected some hope. Like, what people have been able to hear about Bronco Mendenhall and the culture he's building, I think that has resonated with people. But there's a lot of people that want to know what's going on with the football team. And the problem is, we can't really tell you. Like, we can tell you, I've heard this, seen that. We know this about a player based on where they were. We know this about the returning players. But there's so much about this team that I just like... All right, I can tell you a whole lot about Utah State basketball. Like, there's a whole lot of things I can dive into about what types of players they are, how they're starting to fit together.
And that level of intelligence is so much higher than if you were to just get post-practice interviews alone. Because you saw it in practice. Oh, well, I know he's good at the pick and roll. I know he's good at this play, but I know this guy maybe struggles a little bit in the skill set. We thought he'd be good, but he needs work. You know that because you've seen it. We don't have that same level of intelligence for football yet.
And Utah State basketball has sold out their season tickets 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Quickly, the Young Power Sports of Logan text line 9315 with a couple of texts coming in. Powerball lottery brings lots of people and money. How do you use that method to get people to a USU football game? Well, there's a chance that you earn hundreds of millions of dollars. So if Utah State wants to give away hundreds of millions of dollars, there's a chance to, when you come to a game, then that would work. But it's not how it works. And then the odds are way worse for winning the lottery than they are for USU winning or selling out the stadium. And then they already know the starting quarterback for USU.
Yeah.
Yes, we know it's McKay Hillstead.
Which is the weird thing, because usually that's the one.
We don't know how effective or how efficient he is.
But usually, because that was what I was talking about, what's Idaho State going to know? So it's like the one position that coaches tend to be like, I'll tell you at 4 p.m. on September 5th, the way Jim Mora did it. That's the one thing the Bronco was like, yeah, and I think he even did it last year where they named Bryson Barnes. He seems to be entirely secretive about literally everything except the one position that most other coaches are really secretive about.
Yeah, well, they named him at the conclusion of spring.
Yeah.
And they explained their reasons, which I thought were sound.
Yeah, I think they're good reasons.
And so we know it's going to be McKay Hillstead. We know who the starting quarterback is, but how good is he going to be? That's where we just don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this to be like a heavy criticism. I think this is, going to be a bad year for Utah State.
This is mild criticism of Bronco at best.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be heavy-handed. It's just that we just don't know. And I think it's not just us. I think that's indicative of a lot of fans as well. We just don't know. And so there are fans who, if they vote with their dollars. If they're uncertain, then they'll stay home and watch it. And if it looks like it's a good product, then they will start to buy tickets. Yeah. That is, however you want to look at it, that is the Cache Valley way.
Yeah, they'll wait to buy tickets. They'll wait to buy merchandise. They'll wait to send in donations. Like, I think that, again, it's not like there's this giant pile of money in ticket sales where if Bronco opens up practices, they're suddenly going to make another $1 million+ dollars. Like, but you get what you put effort into. And I think there's a little bit further they could go to really entrench themselves in the Valley and to get the most out of the fan base and really help the fan base out. And again, because like they don't have to. You don't have to provide all this hype. You don't have to let the media in and all that. You don't have to do any of these things. But there are ways that you connect to the community.
Yeah, there are intrinsic benefits that we at least believe outweigh the concerns that you might have.
It's like how Bronco, like he has his players do service projects and things like that because he wants the players to connect to the community.
Yeah.
Be nice if he connects to the community as well. Through not just through service, because obviously I'm sure he's doing service alongside his players, but also trying to connect to the fan base in a football sense. Because that's what the public is paying him for. They're paying him for football. They like to know about football, in addition to knowing that he is trying to be part of the community, because he is earnest about that aspect.
Yeah, and from what we know about Bronco, he believes his job is to coach teams to win. His job isn't to be a cheerleader. But when you're the head coach of a college football team, especially at this level, you kind of have to be both. And a fundraiser. I mean, you have to wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
And some coaches have strengths in other areas on that spectrum. But we hope to get more information about how this team is looking. Looks like there's some exciting plays that are happening in practice. And as this fall camp goes on, we will get up there and we'll hear how those practices are going.
Yeah. We've got to take a break here. We're going to let Eric jump out. He's going to go record some more news segments. So while he's out the door, I'll reveal the next player on the list of the top 25 Aggies of 2026. We're up to number 14. We're inside the top 15 now. Fantastic stuff.
If memory serves, this is the first player who was a unanimous selection who appeared on all of our ballots.
Oh, was he?
Yes, this is the first time on our list, in our countdown, we had a player who appeared on everybody's ballot coming into this top 25 countdown.
All right, so we'll get into that next here on the Full Court Press. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here. Eric Frandsen stepped out the door for a minute. He'll be back. Don't worry. He'll be back. We'll continue talking about some other things. We kind of we had a topic planned and I put it in the title of our stream that we were going to rank Utah State conference games, kind of from most interesting to least interesting, or I don't know, vague criteria. We just want to rank things because we want to talk about each of these games, have a chance to talk about what these particular games may mean, where they fit into the schedule. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can look at it, which games you see as the most important, which games that, not, because obviously Utah State wants to win all those games, but some games are maybe you're circling a little bit more on the calendar, or some you're not really looking at circling. But what we have next is our top 25 Aggies of 2026. Now, 5338 on the text line, send this in before the show saying, are the top 25 Aggies posted on Cache Valley Daily? The answer is they should be. They should be. I have been supposed to be posting. I think we're going to do like end of the week. Like, here's the Aggies that were revealed this week. And I've just not been. We're supposed to be releasing them on social media too. And we've had a lot of different things going on right now as we get ready for high school football season and all that. And I'm just making a bunch of excuses. They should be up there, but unfortunately they're not. But you can go back on the different shows and look back at which players have been revealed. I'll get all the social media posts out there eventually, but it might be a minute. But for now, let's look at who is next on the top 25 Aggies of 2026. Number 14 on the list.
The Top 25 Aggies of 2026, presented by Cache Valley Media Group, rolls on today as we reveal the number 14 Utah State football player for the upcoming season. And that player is wide receiver Eli Wood. The 6'1" receiver comes to Utah State after 4 seasons at Virginia. For most of that time, he served largely as a special teams contributor. But in the final 6 games of his 4th season with the Cavaliers, Wood became a threat in the passing game. He caught at least 1 pass in 6 straight games, tallying 12 receptions for 162 yards and a touchdown in that span. With his move to Utah State, Wood is primed for a breakout season to cap off his college career in style.
Yes, Eli Wood, the wide receiver coming from Virginia. Didn't play under Bronco Mendenhall, but heard wonderful review because I believe he said his older brother played under Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia. Heard nothing but good things. So when Eli Wood was looking for a place to transfer after spending 4 years in Virginia, nothing really came of that, except for that last half of what was ultimately his final season with the Cavaliers. He managed to have a bit of an impact on the offense. Had a solid game in their bowl game, I believe, last year, where I think he caught 2 or 3 passes, and the touchdown he had in those final 6 games was in the bowl game that Virginia played in last year. So yeah, this is someone who was making an impact for actually a really solid Virginia team last year, and he's looking like he'll probably be one of the lead receivers. I think I had him. Well, as Eric mentioned, he was on every single one of the ballots. I think I had him a little bit lower. I don't think I had him the lowest, but he's someone that I think if I revised my rankings, like if I went back and did them again, I might rank him a little bit higher, based on the fact that he was part of media day that shows that he's one of the leaders. A couple of the clips we've seen, he was catching a pass from McKay Hillstead, so it seems. Maybe I'm trying to infer things that maybe don't matter, but it seems like maybe he's with the first team offense, so could be making a big impact there. So Eli Wood is looking like he'll be one of the top contributors, or potentially one of the top contributors. Again, we have to throw all these qualifiers in there where it's like pretty sure that like Javen Jacobs is going to be the lead running back. Pretty sure that a guy like Eli Wood, or I've been pretty high on Javon Robinson, but I could be wrong about him, or we've not seen as much of him. I don't think we saw him much in the spring game. I can't remember if he was injured in the spring game or not. But trying to figure out who are going to be these players. And heck, Nico Boncory, like he's someone who heard a little bit of buzz about him. I believe it was about him. I think he was a true freshman last year for the Aggies, and then he didn't end up really playing, but maybe he steps up this year and maybe he's a surprise entry into the rotation as a development player coming off of a redshirt season. So, but overall, bringing this back to Eli Wood, I would expect him to be probably in the top 3 in terms of receptions or yards, maybe touchdowns. Touchdowns can be a bit fickle as far as being a leader on the team or being in the top 3. But I think he will be one of the top targets for McKay Hillstead. He's got good size, good speed. I don't know if he has breakaway speed, but he has good speed, good size, good combination of all these things where he can be a really solid receiver. Before we hit a break, one last bit of news in relation to Utah State football and in preseason honors and whatnot. Javen Jacobs was named to the Werfel Trophy watch list. You could say Waffle Trophy, but that'd be a little insulting. I guess the All-State Werfel Trophy. I don't know if I'm saying that properly, but this is a Community Service and Academics award. So they say the award honors FBS players who led through community service while excelling in the classroom and on the field. So there is also an on the field aspect to this today. There are quite a few players who get nominated to these lists, but Utah State getting one of those, really solid, especially with Javen Jacobs. There's a whole list of like community so the community outreach that he's done in Cache Valley. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different community service or areas where he volunteers. Some of them are a little generic, but just some of them are specific charities. And so it's really nice to see like this is the kind of player that Bronco Mendenhall is looking to develop, somebody who has a lot of outreach in the community, but is also a good football player. And that's what we're expecting to see from Javen Jacobs this season. We're going to go ahead and take another break. We'll see if we can get Eric back in the studio. Want to have a chance to talk about some of these conference games for Utah State in the Pac-12, which ones we think are the most interesting, ones that obviously we're going to be watching, but we're not necessarily circling on the calendar of like, this game will define Utah State. So we'll have that next here on the Full Court Press. Live Young Rentals is up and rolling at Young Power Sports. You can rent street bikes, side-by-sides, and watercraft from brands like Polaris, Can-Am. You can call 435-755-7111. You can have adventure without the payment or sometimes the burden that owning some of these machines can be. You can have all that fun with Live Young Rentals. Again, call 435-755-7111. I didn't notice this from the YouTube chat, and I think this goes all the way back to like the beginning of the show. I don't know if I can pronounce the name of the chatter, but a couple of these. And if you want to send any of your thoughts in, you can send them in via the YouTube chat or the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321, saying, as diehard Gonzaga fan living in Eastern Ohio, I cannot wait for the Gonzaga at Utah State game and the short drive down to Logan for that game. And saying Utah State is also selling more tickets to its home football games, season tickets and otherwise, because Utah State has a better home schedule with the likes of Washington State, Oregon State, and Texas State. Yeah, like I think maybe like the home schedule for football is definitely, well, I guess the home schedule, I think in basketball, I think it's a lot better in basketball because of the conference games. The home schedule in non-conference is kind of terrible, but in conference play, there is a big demand for Utah State basketball because they're a good team. There's also some transparency. But I honestly, the reason that because I know we had this whole talk about transparency and how that affects season ticket sales or could impact season ticket sales and things like that. Biggest reason Utah State basketball is selling out back-to-back years is because the team's still dang good. It's really dang good and people want to watch it. If Utah State went 12-2 last year in football, they'd be putting up close to record season ticket sales with what they're already doing. And, if you stacked a really, a lot of hype for this upcoming team on top of that in terms of what we're expecting on the field. But where you lack on-field results, you can maybe try and make up for it with a good home schedule. I think being in the Pac-12, I think that has certainly increased things. Having, teams like Oregon State and Washington State, where that's a little bit more interesting. Texas State, I believe that's a road game this year. I think. I'd have to double check that. I'm going to talk about some of these games. Yeah, so that's a road game. So like their home game, that's for playing. They're playing Colorado State, Fresno State at home. They're playing Washington State at home. They play Oregon State on the road. So yeah, we'll see how the all of this ends up impacting Utah State's attendance. Ticket sales went up, but in the end, it's all about whether or not Bronco Mendenhall can get the win. We welcome back Eric Frandsen, just in time for us to do a quick ranking. We won't dive like super deep into this, so we can maybe talk a little bit about this in the next segment, maybe overflowing in the next segment as we wrap up the first hour. But just want to get a quick glance, like this, just the idea of like, hey, what if we rank the Utah State's conference games? I wanted to kind of isolate just the Pac-12 games. Maybe we could throw in the non-conference games, but obviously you're fighting for a conference title. These are the games that kind of end up mattering most for conference titles, for bowl games, whatnot. So if we look at the 7 opponents Utah State will play, and so I'll emphasize it there. I'm not going to include the flex game in this,
right? Yeah,
because it's just
unknown.
Yeah. At its easiest, it's just Boise State again, which I don't know how much does that change from just playing Boise State regularly, and yeah, it's also an unknown.
Yeah.
So of the 7 opponents Utah State will play, there's almost tears in this, but I put a couple of teams. And maybe, I don't know if you had time because you've been busy. I don't know if you had time to make your own ranking here.
This is on the fly, so we'll do our best.
I put Colorado State and Fresno State kind of at the bottom because in exactly how you'd want to rank these, because you could rank them by like which conference games are most important. There's also like which games are most interesting just because maybe you haven't played this team in a while. That might raise Texas State and Oregon State up a little higher, and I think I kind of leaned into that a little bit because I do have those teams higher. And You know,
you put Fresno State down there.
Yeah, mainly because like familiar opponent, and if you're looking at like, you know, is it going to be the game that defines Utah State? Like if they're kind of on the edge of contention, like games against, like that's going to be an important game, but like there are other opponents that are probably going to be more important in the conference race. So like you've played them a lot, and you've played Colorado State a lot, and where Colorado State kind of toward the bottom of the preseason list, Fresno State's toward the top. I think we both had them like number 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I put them a little bit lower, just like in terms of like how interested am I in specifically this game. I don't mean to say this is a disrespect. It's just like there is just more hype for me for some of these other games. And it could be for reasons of I haven't seen this team play, so I kind of want to see Utah State play them.
I can see that.
So that's kind of where I'm not talking about this is the most important for Utah State's conference championship hopes. So that's kind of the methodology I'm leaning into here. And Washington State, that's a team Utah State's played the last few years. Again, that's also another team that's kind of in the middle of the standings. Like, you know, it is going to be at home, so it's nice to get them at home, but like they're also kind of toward the bottom of like, I'm not really circling that game on the schedule, really looking forward to seeing Utah State play Washington State because I saw that happen a few months ago.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, just in December, but I see that this is a team also that Utah State will face early in the conference schedule.
Yeah,
and so for me, I would put it a little bit higher just because it is early, and there is some familiarity with the Cougars, but they have a new head coach.
Yeah,
and Utah State's had some success against the Cougars, but Washington State has also beaten the Aggies here just recently. So that's a really intriguing game for me. Because what's their new coach looking like? This is a Pac-12 holdover. Can Utah State say, that's nice, but we're here to be the new dog in town?
Yeah. I have Texas State at number 4, and to be honest, maybe I should, I don't know, this is one I thought I was going to end up ranking higher when I was kind of putting the list together, just because I'm looking forward to see Texas State because I just want to see Texas State play. Like this is a team that's kind of there's a bit of a black sheep with the Pac-12 where like, they were that kind of, okay, we got to let somebody else in. So I guess Texas, it feels like they were the second to last person picked in the pickup line where it's like, you're not last, you're not left out, but like, I don't know. So I want to see Texas State prove it. And there is every chance that they could prove themselves. You know, they've had a solid football program. Their offense is going to be looking like it might be the most electric in the conference.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing them. And
well, they're one of the teams that I think will really test Utah State among the most of the rest of these teams because of their offense, because they're so electric and dynamic, but also intriguing because they're a new conference entry. We really don't know anything about Texas State. We're familiar with these other schools because of geography or cross-conference things that have happened. Maybe not so much Oregon State, certainly more familiarity with Washington State, but Texas State is like, who are these guys? We really don't know what this campus even looks like, what the stadium's going to be like, what their fan base is like.
Yeah. So that's where I've got them a little higher than I think many people do. Oregon State, I've got them at 3 for the very reason that there are a lot of vocal Oregon State fans. And I just want to see the banter between Utah State and Oregon State fans. Like it's barely anything on the field that I rank them this high. I just want to see them going back and forth. Oregon State saying, you guys don't even belong in this conference, and Utah State, comparing recent history where Utah State's certainly done better than Oregon State in most sports. So I'm just looking forward to it for that reason alone.
Well, Bronco Mendenhall played there. He has ties there. He was in running to be a head coach there once. And this is a team that has nice facilities, had a big budget. They've struggled since the rest of their Pac-12 foes left.
They got a bounce back here they're hoping for.
Yeah, they're really hoping to be better than they really are.
Yeah, and so the top 2 spots, I put Boise State 1, San Diego State 2. You can maybe flip them. Those are kind of – Utah State doesn't have a massive rival in football, but where you would point to a rivalry, it's probably to one of these 2 teams. I know Utah and BYU, but you barely play them anymore. You do get to play Utah this year. But Boise State and San Diego State seem to be kind of the biggest conference rivals. I know that tends to be a little bit more intense in basketball, but there still is that carryover to football. Utah State fans really want to finally get that win over Boise State.
Got so close last year.
They've been getting some wins over San Diego State, but San Diego State's starting to bounce back themselves. So I think those two games. And, of course, they'll also be really big for the conference race as well. So there's that as well. We got to take a break. When we come back, a 24-hour college basketball event is coming. I think actually technically coming back.
Yeah, it's coming back.
They used to have these.
It's happened before.
But they're going to do it again. The Field of 68, the organization, not the old tournament format. They're forming a 24-hour event featuring a bunch of mid-major teams. We'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press.
Want the OE filter for your diesel? Mopar and AC Delco filters are in stock now. They also have Napa Premium Def 2.5 gallon for only $8.99. Great deals in store at Napa Auto Parts, multiple locations between Preston and Providence.
So once upon a time, and I was apparently just not aware of this, they had a 24-hour event with college basketball where you just play essentially 24 hours. Was what, six games, or how many games is that? Do you need?
Eight games.
That's 8 games. That's probably, six would, unless they're 4-hour games. That's not going to get you all the way there.
No.
But the Field of 68, who's kind of been like expanding their, I don't know, because they've been a media organization. They have a lot of followers. They do a lot of content for college basketball, and they're not picky about just following the power conferences. It's one of the things I think is great about them. They're willing to get into the weeds of the mid-majors.
Yeah, they're very laudable for trying to understand and highlight basketball wherever it's being played.
These are college basketball junkies. I know Jeff Goodman's part of that. I know people don't always have the highest view of Jeff Goodman, but these are college basketball junkies. And
the Mountain West is involved in this, one of its schools.
Yeah, so we have the opening day marathon. Do they say which day this is on? I'm looking at their tweet, and I'm not seeing a specific date.
Yes.
Because they have all of the games
November
listed.
2nd.
November 2nd. So, yeah, opening day. So, a marathon where so they have 8 games, and these are all mid-major opponents. And we're getting deep enough into the weeds of the mid-major that there are some teams that I barely know. But 8 games, all in Rock Hill. Is this one of the Carolinas?
South Carolina.
I got it right. I knew it was
very good.
I had like a 1 in 50 chance of getting that right.
It'll actually be 2 venues. So the first 4 games are at Rock Hill, South Carolina.
2 of them are in Sioux Falls. It's one of the Dakotas.
Yes,
I forget which one.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah, I guess there's nothing in North Dakota. Anything in the Dakotas in South Dakota.
At the famed Pentagon Arena.
Thought the Pentagon was in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I guess there's another one. And then then they'll go back. There'll be more games later in the day back at Rock Hill, South Carolina.
So at midnight, High Point takes on Liberty. 3 a.m., Grambling against Northern Illinois. 6 a.m., App State versus Merrimack. 9 a.m., Winthrop against Queens. 11:30, Murray State, Tennessee State. 2 p.m., UTEP. That's where the Mountain West involvement, although Northern Illinois kind of, except not Mountain West in basketball.
Yeah.
UTEP in Northern Kentucky at 2 p.m., UAB and McNeese at 5:30, and Furman and how do you say
Bethune-Cookman?
I didn't know how to say that one. They're at 8 p.m. These are all Eastern times, so fun marathon event. That's going to be a heck of a go for the opening of college basketball. But we got to take a break here. We'll be back. Second hour coming up next here on the Full Court Press. Welcome on back in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen. Second hour, the 5 o'clock hour here on a Tuesday edition of the show. Working on getting the first hour of podcast published. I'm not as good as Eric. I've kind of been all right, but getting it mostly uploaded here.
You know, getting back in these 2-hour routines.
Yeah. So I'm just used to just like being able to publish it at the end of the day, but now we got to do it like in the middle of the show and do all this other stuff and whatnot. But second hour, some fun topics coming up. We kind of glossed over. There were a couple we went long. Well, we kind of just came up with the topic. We were talking about exposure for Utah State football. So there's a couple of topics we get into in the second hour, though we still have a full hour planned of topics. We'll talk about Utah State soccer. Preseason poll for Pac-12 soccer came out. The Aggies pretty high up in that preseason poll. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about, if you would have heard at the top of the hour there from Fox Sports, those listening on the radio, you'd have heard NBA Christmas games were announced. It's time to start thinking about Christmas.
There's a full NBA schedule and an NFL schedule.
Yeah.
Like, there will not be a shortage of options of interesting content to watch on Christmas
You
Day.
turn the TV on and there will be sports all day.
Yes.
We'll also have the stat that blew our minds, our Full Court Press players of the week. And to start us off the hour, I had this just fun little idea, as we're just getting closer. So we gotta come up with topics here. But with Utah State sports starting tomorrow, I figured it was maybe a fun little chance to just do something kind of fun, a little silly. But essentially, me and Eric are going to have a draft. Kind of like, because we've got fantasy football drafts. I just did a fantasy draft the other day. And we're going to do a sort of draft. But we're going to draft Utah State sports teams. And essentially what we're aiming for is we want to draft the teams that we think have the best chance of finishing high up in the conference standings. So obviously looking for teams that you think you're going to win the conference championship, but even if they're ones that aren't maybe going to win the championship, teams that'll finish fairly high in the standings. So
how deep are we going on this?
We're going to go all 14 programs.
Okay.
So I hope you know men's golf. Unless you want to just go like 5 rounds.
Well, yeah.
All right, we'll do 5 rounds. So we won't get all of them.
Yeah.
So some will get left behind. So we got to figure out who's going to pick first, Eric. So heads or tails?
I will pick heads.
It took a long time. It is tails. So
Okay.
I had to flip it on my phone. I didn't actually bring a coin in with me. So that means I get to pick first. And I will take Utah State soccer with the first overall pick in our sports draft.
Pretty good selection. This week the Pac-12 came out with their preseason rankings for how they think things are going to go for the Pac-12 and women's soccer, and Utah State's right there. They're number one. They're predicted to win the conference. You're not the only one who thinks Utah State soccer is going to win the Pac-12.
So there we go. That's my first pick, drafting Utah State sports teams. All right, Eric, who are you taking with your first pick?
Well, since I can't select who I had, my next one, I'm going to go with gymnastics. This is a program that's definitely been improving the last few years, and a lot of exciting momentum behind the Utah State gymnastics program as they move into the Pac-12. And Oregon State has a pretty good gymnastics program, and there's some others that have some good traditions, but I just really like the momentum that's been happening with USU gymnastics lately. So I'm going with the gymnastics program.
All right, so my pick, I'm kind of torn between 2 teams, but I'm going to go with men's basketball. I was thinking volleyball. Actually, there's 3 teams. There's 3 teams I was thinking of, but I'm going to take men's basketball. I don't know if they're going to, winning the championship is going to be a real tough deal, but I think they're going to be in that top 2 or 3.
Yeah. I actually agree with you that I think Utah State basketball is going to be near the top. I don't know if I have the confidence to say they will be at the top, but I think they will be near the top of how they perform. So since I can't choose them, the next team that I would select in my draft, I'm going to go with men's tennis.
Oh, so that was the other one I was thinking of. I was like, dang, that's a really good one.
Another team, kind of like women's gymnastics, they've got some great momentum on their side right now. They've got some great talent, great coaching happening. Yeah, these guys are winning at a very high level. The program that we frankly just don't talk about enough, it should talk about more.
Yeah.
But they were one of those teams, the squads last year that performed well in the regular season, performed well in the postseason, and have some really exciting players coming back.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll take volleyball with my next one. I know the transition away from the Rob Nielsen era, I think, puts a lot of kind of question marks on, are they going to continue that momentum? I know men's basketball makes us think that, it doesn't really matter who the coach is, you're just always going to succeed. But like having a good head coach, having good recruiting, good consistency, good continuity, a lot of that matters. And in sports like volleyball, where it happens in a lot of these sports where just the one coach can recruit and have such this high impact. Where having the right coach can be the difference between having and they can come in and almost have success right away or within 1 or 2 years. Like the coaches just seem to have this massive impact on sports. Like we've seen that in volleyball and soccer, where struggling programs went 2 years and suddenly 1 or 2 years the new coach, like Rob Nielsen, turned around like a 2-win volleyball team into a conference contender within a couple of years. Manny Martins turned around a Utah State soccer program that wasn't like in the gutter. But it was kind of mediocre, and he turned that into what's becoming almost a national brand in women's soccer. So having the right coach, we're going to see if they got the right coach. But still confident that they're going to be a strong program.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one too. That was actually next on my list. So
I keep taking all the ones you want.
Yes. So I think the next on my list, then I'd have to go to men's track and field. Utah State has fairly regularly produced athletes that are in the All-American discussion. Logan Hammer. And there's a number of other guys at various respective competitions that they participate in, and this will be a new era for the Pac-12. A lot of the familiar faces with teams mostly comprised of the Mountain West, but I really think there's some really solid coaching going on there, and they continue to attract really solid athletes in that program in the men's track and field.
So I'm kind of struggling because there's a lot of teams that I don't know as much about their recent history of, but I think I'm going to go to men's cross country, where again we're stretching in programs that I don't know much history of, but I think we've seen some decent results. I know men's track and field has been probably the most successful of the track and field cross country, but I'm gonna hold up men's. Of course, knowing me, like women's cross country will then have a much better year.
Well, the women's cross country was actually the next on my list. This Utah State has an advantage of training at altitude. I think that helps them. They've got a nice course and opportunities to compete well in this new league. I can't tell you that I know much about cross country at these other schools, but I know that Utah State has been fairly competitive in that sport. So that would be, for me, the natural next selection on this list for Utah State athletics.
So there's a few sports where it's like, all right, you're just taking a shot in the dark, where some of these teams finished in the middle or lower end of their conference recently. I'll go ahead and I'll just say football. I'll finally take them off the board.
That's where I was going to go next as well. It's about time to put football on the list.
Yeah, it's about time, but I think softball, they could maybe make I know they're going to be playing in a tough conference. That's maybe the biggest thing where I'm not 100% sure, because I know softball has usually brought in talented players. They've just kind of struggled to put everything together and have consistency. But
I'm intrigued with Coach Zaleski and her experience. But you're right. The softball in this conference is going to be very good.
Yeah.
And Texas State is going to be good. San Diego State is going to be good. From what I understand, Gonzaga even has a bit of a history of being pretty solid with softball. So I think softball is going to be tough.
Yeah.
But I am really intrigued to see Coach Zaleski with her experience coaching at a high level in Texas and Oklahoma. Utah State had some interesting coaches before, but nobody's had the experience like she's had coaching at the highest level. And so I think that'll prove really beneficial for the future, but I'm just not sure if they'll be there just yet this season in her first year.
Yeah. All right. So final pick for you, Eric.
Final pick for me. I guess I got to see what else is on my list.
We got softball, women's tennis, golf, and I think that's actually it. I think those are all your options.
Women's basketball.
Women's basketball as well.
I'm not going to pick women's basketball.
Oh, not a believer?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'll go with women's tennis. We'll just see how they do.
They were close to making some noise in the if I remember right, following, because them and men's tennis were going pretty much roughly the same time in the Mountain West tournament, but I think they still fell pretty early on. But I think they were almost, if I'm remembering correctly, my memory is subject to being very wrong. If I remember, they were almost close to making some real noise in the conference tournament, but couldn't quite make it happen.
Yeah.
So there we go. There's our fun little draft. I guess we decided against picking all the teams. We didn't want someone to feel bad by being last, but
we picked quite a few.
Yeah, we got most of them. I ended up with soccer, men's basketball, volleyball, men's cross country, and football. Eric has gymnastics, men's tennis, men's track and field, women's cross country, and you picked women's tennis as your final one. So maybe I'll hang on to this paper and we'll look at the end of the year.
That'll be interesting to see.
I'll try and I'll remember and dig it up and be like, all right, I'll have to find some way to like tally it up, because sometimes like some conferences don't have as many teams, and it's like, I don't know. I'll find a way to maybe see who did the best in drafting their programs.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some sports we're far more familiar with than others. But beyond that, there are schools that we're just not familiar with in this new league. Like, does Oregon State have a good men's tennis program? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Does Texas State? They're starting gymnastics fresh. Are they going to be good out of the gate? Because there's a lot of high school talent in Texas. Are they going to be competitive right out of the gate, or is it going to take them time to adjust? And football is one of those that could be, I don't know, could actually finish a little bit higher than some expect or predict.
Everyone's expecting 6th.
Yeah.
So almost everyone. 5th or 6th.
But they outperformed last year. What was the thought of them in the preseason?
They outperform pretty much every year.
Yeah.
Unless they're picked like 1st or 2nd, then they underperform.
But there's there is an exciting momentum felt within Utah State athletics about this move because of how they left the Mountain West. They left the Mountain West on a real high note, winning all those championships, regular season and tournament, and that momentum carries into the new Pac-12. So this actually is a real challenge, because I think there are a number of teams that could be right there. So we may have picked 1 or 2, but there could be like 3 or 4 who all finish at the same level. And it may be a challenge to determine like who really was number 1 or who really was number 2.
Yeah.
I think there are a number of programs that will be in the mix to win Pac-12 championships.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty confident about picking 4 of these teams. Like soccer, that was pretty much the clear number 1. You know, they, as you mentioned, they were picked first in the Pac-12 preseason poll, but gymnastics, they've obviously been doing really well. Men's tennis, you know, they're coming off a championship and expected to be good. They're picking up some solid athletes as well. Men's basketball, again, we weren't super confident they were going to win a championship, but we're confident that they're going to be up there
at the top. Yeah.
So like that's a program that we're expecting to be good. So like, yeah, they're likely going to be multiple. You know, I don't think we're going to see 9 championships or however many it was by the end. I don't think we're going to see that many out of Utah State in this upcoming sports season. Like, there's a reason this last year was really special for the Aggies, because you usually don't win that many trophies in one year. But I'd be surprised if they didn't get at least one.
Yeah, and I think the question for our audience too is like, which which teams do you think will perform the best in this new Pac-12? Which Utah State team will arrive on the scene and plant their flag that, hey, we are the best in this sport, in this new league? Because I think there are a couple that could do that, could very well do that in this new league. Based from what we understand about the Mountain West teams that we're familiar with that are coming over, and Oregon State, Washington State, Texas State, I'm not really sure, and Gonzaga in the mix there too. So I think that there are a number of programs at Utah State that have been doing really well, and that momentum will carry into this new league and will be in the mix for conference championships.
Yeah. So just kind of wrapping things up here in this segment, wanted to touch on Utah State soccer. We've kind of mentioned them being first in the coaches preseason poll. Texas State actually picked second. I think they won the Sun Belt last year. I want to say I was sort of out of the corner of my eye following Texas State athletics last year, but I remember their soccer team being pretty solid. But along with the Pac-12 preseason poll from the coaches, they also released, with football, they did the preseason impact list. That seems to be something they're doing with a lot of sports, because they also have that with Utah State soccer, where for Pac-12 soccer, women's soccer, 3 players were highlighted from Utah State, and I imagine it was 3 players for every single team. And those 3 players, Kata Wilson, Kuni Harai, and Mia Lopez, were the 3 players. 2 of them are returners from last year. Harai and Wilson were both key players in the rotation last season, coming in, expecting them to be impact players once again. Mia Lopez, she's a newcomer. Of course, Lopez, those of you following Utah State soccer may remember that name. She's the one of the sisters of a whole line of Lopez at this point, who have come from Logan High School and played at Utah State. Mia was originally at BYU and was actually, I believe, Big 12 all freshman selection. But she's transferred up here to Utah State, and from what I'm hearing, she's going to definitely live up to being one of these preseason impact players from her spot in the midfield.
And a reminder, these games for Utah State women's soccer, you can watch them all for free on YouTube. The Pac-12 has announced that all of their Olympic sports will be available for free on YouTube. You don't have to go through a paywall or subscribe to an app like some other conferences in this region.
We won't name names.
So it's easy to find, easy to watch, and Utah State also coming out and declaring. I don't know who declared this, but sharing a post just the last 30 minutes or so, saying that they've got the toughest non-conference schedule in the nation outside of the P4 and the Big East, and they've got a really tough non-conference schedule. And it begins tomorrow when they go to Kansas, number 15 in the nation.
Yeah, Sweet 16 team last year, I believe.
Of course, the first chance to see them in person will be on Sunday with Michigan coming to town at 7 o'clock. So they're really exciting. And so a couple of home games next week, and Sunday against Michigan, and then on the 20th versus Portland. And they're on the road again for a bit until September. But hope people come out and support this team. I know they do have some really good fan support, but it's going to be a minute before all the student body is on campus. So these early games, it's important for the community to come out and show their love and support too.
Yeah, and also, if you're talking about community support, volleyball, they're selling tickets, $10 tickets for their match in the Spectrum against Utah, trying to sell out all 10,270 seats. You can get in for $10 a pop.
Yeah, look, they had BYU in town last year. I know they tried to set a record. They didn't hit that record broadly for the state, but they did set a record for Utah State, and they're trying to surpass that. And that was fun, having a volleyball game in the Spectrum. Went to that and brought some friends, and we had a good time watching Utah State volleyball, and certainly going to try to do that again with Utah, with another important in-state rival coming to town.
Yeah. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into some of our next topics. We might jump into the NFL a little bit. We may or may not do hot take or not a take. I think we will. And I think that'll lead us into an NFL topic, something I saw. I'm We can also get into the NBA. We're going to kind of merge some NFL, NBA talk as we're getting close to both of those seasons. And we'll wrap up the first hour a little bit later with the stat that blew our mind and the Full Court Press Players of the Week. We're back here on the Full Court Press, and one thing we mentioned in the last segment, I kind of wanted to ask you, Eric, about this a little bit more detail. Pac-12 broadcasting games on YouTube. Now, mind you, we've seen Utah State games on Facebook. Of course, we at one point were broadcasting our high school games on YouTube. Of course, then YouTube got mad at us for some reason, and like there's a whole story and a half behind us broadcasting on YouTube and hopefully coming back, but for some of the ease and convenience. But like, it kind of feels like, when you're broadcasting, like YouTube, obviously massive platform. Yeah. Facebook, massive platform. But like broadcasting games, it almost feels like, I don't want to, this is going to feel like the worst possible way to put it, but almost like low class, where it's like, we're a small time company and we broadcast our high school games on YouTube because, obviously we know where we're at on the rung of sports media companies. But like, you're talking about the Pac-12, you got your own Pac-12 enterprises, you're going to broadcast on YouTube.
Yeah, but
the access, the other side of it is that the access is like, that's why we go to YouTube, is because anyone can watch it anywhere in the world. And it is like the convenience of YouTube. It's a massive positive for us for our broadcast when we were there. Like, so the access is, it's better than TV in a lot of ways, but it feels like it's a little wrong. But I know that they're broadcasting, and it's not the football and men's basketball, where Utah State had football games broadcast on Facebook, Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Where this is, again, I don't want to denigrate soccer and volleyball and some of these sports, but again, we know where all these sports are at on the rung of interest and all that.
Yeah, and on some level, it's like, well, the ACC, they have their own cable channel. They can also be found on YouTube TV. The SEC has their own channel that can also be found. The Big Ten, like these, there used to be a Pac-12 channel.
Yeah.
But it's now defunct. But they still have the framework and the studios to produce live content. The nice thing about YouTube also is that those games are easy to find after the fact. Because if it's on a what you would call a linear provider,
like when I go to like ESPN Plus and try to find old Utah
you watch
State
it,
games,
and once the game's over, it's over. And you might get a replay. Like on some of these other channels, sub-channels like the SEC and the Big Ten, like they're always showing replays because they've got a lot of time to fill.
Yeah, but that's not on-demand stuff.
But it's not on demand. It's not when it's convenient to you. When you go to YouTube, when you want to watch that game, you can go watch that game.
Yeah, I've tried to go find old sporting events for some of these teams, these Olympic sports. And there are times where I can't find them. The Mountain West was actually pretty decent about archiving their stuff properly. ESPN Plus sucks at archiving their stuff. I cannot find. You can never find what you want to find there that's archived or on demand. It's there for live events, and they pretend that they archive stuff. But whenever I want to find stuff there, I can't. So that's kind of the thing, is that I guess if you can get past, maybe I'm just inventing this perception. Maybe it's just a me thing. But like the access of YouTube, that's something that I think will be really nice for these sports. Just being able to tune into a live stream, just watch it. Hopefully YouTube doesn't do to them what they did to us.
I'm sure they actually have people.
They might be able to
actual humans they can talk to at YouTube, whereas we could not.
We had to talk to bots.
Yeah.
Of course, eventually there was a backdoor.
Yeah, somebody knew somebody, and that's how they helped us.
That was the only way that we could get around that. Yeah. But we'll see what happens there. So Eric, let's go now to the hottest game show in sports radio. Hot take or not a take? Pun intended, by the way, when I call it the hottest. Like that pun is very much intended.
See, and your ability to actually get me on something right now is probably really high, because I have not really been plugged in to some of the sports discussion of the last few days.
Yeah, so we're
highly distracted.
You were on point with the last one I tried. Of course, I tried two of them. You'd heard one of them, and you guessed the other one. So here's today's. We're going to the NFL. There's also another NFL thing I wanted to bring up. But this comes, and so to remind you of the rules, I go out and I peruse the internet and I look for a hot take. Or I might make one up. And I'll present it to Eric, and he has to guess if it's a real hot take or if it's not a take, something I just made up.
All right, let's go.
So, and if I pull it from, if it is a hot take, it has to be from somebody who has some level of some decent following.
Right.
Doesn't have to be massive, but I'm not picking from some rando with 2 Twitter followers.
Right.
It's not coming from there.
Or off of a random Cougar message board.
Yeah. Not coming from Fanboard. So here's this one. A Kansas City podcast host. So talking about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, torn ACL, recovering from that, may or may not actually be available for week 1. But this podcaster said that Patrick Mahomes, even with a torn ACL, is still a top 10 quarterback in the league.
If it came from a Kansas City podcaster, that's something I could believe to have been said.
You gonna lock in that answer?
Yes. I will say that's a hot take.
That is not a take. I made that up. I got you with trying to add some legitimacy to it.
Yes.
I always had a vague description of where it came from, but sometimes I make it up. Who knows? Maybe somebody did say that, but I did not see anybody say that.
I could definitely see some fanboys taking that approach. Now, I did see some clips of Jalen Royals getting involved in some plays in there.
Caught a pass from Patrick Mahomes because he is cleared to play in training camp. So
he's practicing. He's limited, but he's making his comeback, which is an incredible return.
Yeah, the speed at which he is doing it is kind of insane. But on the topic of quarterbacks, I saw this is a guy named Sam Block. I guess he's with ESPN. I don't know. Has a bunch of followers on social media. But he pointed out a bunch of NFL quarterbacks, pointing out that all of them have been benched. J.J. McCarthy, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Dylan Gabriel, Anthony Richardson, Kenny Pickett, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Will Levis. I believe all of these guys were first-round quarterbacks. And he says at the end, the NFL has a QB development problem. And I maybe need to do a little bit more research in this to back up kind of my initial impression. Because my very first impression was, okay, we'll go to the 1990s. You'll find the same number of quarterbacks who maybe were supposed to pan out, and they didn't. The hit rate on quarterbacks is still only in the 15 to 20% or something like that. I might even be lower than that. And in the first round, I don't even think it gets above 50%. And that's been the case forever. Your hit rate on number one overall picks is, I think, still only a little over 50%. Mm-hmm. Let alone you get to the top, 2 or 3, it actually kind of plummets after number one. But my other thought was quarterbacks are just getting overdrafted. Say Mac Jones was in the 2004 draft. Do you think he goes in the top 3 rounds?
Probably not.
Yeah, he was picked 14th or 15th by the Patriots.
Yeah.
You think Trey Lance goes the 2nd or 3rd overall in that? I can't remember if he was 2nd or 3rd overall in that draft, but he goes top 3. Does a quarterback who played did he only play half a season, or did he get a full season at North Dakota State? I think it was. It's not really so much that he was in the FCS, but he barely got any playing time in the FCS. He was physically impressive. Does he get drafted top 3 in the 1998 NFL draft?
Yeah, I think that we certainly follow Jordan Love closely and have kind of observed his path. And it was much like what you see in college for a lot of times. You go and you redshirt, you learn from the guy who's playing, and you get your body right and understand the speed of the game at that level. And eventually it's your turn and you break through. And it's worked out well for him. But we really don't see that very often in the NFL anymore. Jordan Love was a first-round guy to be put on the bench for a few years.
Yeah.
But we don't see that. That's extremely rare today because the emphasis to win now, but also the NFL is famous for this, of leaning in on rookie contracts and trying to milk as much out of those cheap contracts as they can.
Yeah.
And so it does put a lot of pressure on these young quarterbacks to pick up the speed of the game and succeed early, and it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I think since we've had quarterbacks who have been highly successful on their rookie contracts, Tom Brady, he was really early in his, that first little flurry of Super Bowls. He wasn't. He was a 6th-round draft pick, so I don't know. Patrick Mahomes, he got off to a pretty quick start as well. Josh Allen got off to a pretty quick. I mean, he did sit for a year.
He sat behind somebody else,
and so did Tom Brady. Even though they sat for, they still actually got off pretty quick in their career. Ben Roethlisberger was actually, he didn't start initially, but I think he came in mid-season and then actually went undefeated as a rookie in the regular season. I think he went 11-0. So there are quarterbacks who work really quick, and everyone wants to have that guy. And then everyone wants to have everyone who's picking in the top 5 or so. Quarterbacks these days feel like they go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There were a couple of years where it's, here are your top 3 quarterbacks. They're all going to get taken in the top 10. because everyone in or a bunch of teams in the top 10 feel like they have to get their quarterback, and there are just not 3 top 10 quarterbacks in every draft, and yet they still take 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the top 10 when they're guys who should be taken in the 3rd or 4th round.
I wonder how much that's going to change though with players who can make more money staying in college longer and playing against more mature guys on a regular basis, and 5 years to stay in college, and just getting more time, more development, more poise. And so when they do make that transition, they're physically more mature, mentally more mature, and have had more experiences under their belt, so that it's an easier transition for them to make.
I mean, that could help, and I think staying longer. But the thing is, if you were leaving if you were leaving college early anyway, you were ready.
Well, look what happened at the Hall of Fame game just the other day. Now, I don't know if he's going to really start a lot of games, but the quarterback for Arizona,
Carson Beck,
he looked very calm and poised and was, handling things really well. If he would have come out a year before, I don't know if he even takes those snaps.
Yeah.
But he was somebody who had the opportunity to stay in college longer, to gain more confidence. The game slows down, and then as he makes that transition to the NFL, it's not that big of a leap.
Yeah. But I still think you can take guys a little bit later in the draft, or you can. Where did Carson Beck go? I can't remember where he got picked.
Oh, where he got selected? I don't remember.
I have to go back. I haven't followed the NFL draft that closely, but there weren't as many top picks. Like Mendoza went 1, and this is a bit quarterback light draft. Like one of the first times in a while that we haven't seen a ton of quarterbacks go in the top 10, which I think is how it really should be. Like sometimes you got a 1-2 in terms of quarterbacks. You got your Drew Bledsoe and Ryan Leaf went in the same draft as Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
it was Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer, I think. Sometimes you get your 1-2 at quarterbacks. Neither of those guys quite panned out. I mean, Bledsoe was kind of all right.
Yeah,
Meyer
Bledsoe was okay.
Not so much.
No.
Manning worked out. Ryan Leaf, not so much. Although Ryan Leaf, I think, is going to be calling games for the Pac-12 in football.
Yes, he is.
Getting off on a tangent there. But you put the pressure on these quarterbacks who, Zach Wilson goes number 2 overall. He shouldn't have gone number 2 overall because he wasn't that good. Talented, yes. He has more talent in his little finger than I'll ever have in football my entire life. If he took 10 of me, I wouldn't have that much talent. But talent doesn't equal performance on the field. You got to be able to hone that. Some of the most talented football players in the world never made it in the NFL because they couldn't hone that talent.
Right.
So you need to be able to put them in the right situation. Going to the Jets didn't help, but I don't know if it would have worked out anywhere if you'd taken number 2 overall, because there's a pressure associated with being picked that high up that you need to be ready now. When me and my brother were talking, and he's been hearing because he's listened to the sports radio earlier in the day where they talk about for Mendoza with the Raiders, he may or may not start. And I'm you always start the number 1 overall pick. I know Mahomes got picked 10th or 11th, and he sat for a year. Sometimes you see that where guys picked in the first round will sit for a year. But if you pick a guy at number 1 overall, you always start him.
Yeah.
And you see that kind of same thing with 2 or 3. You don't pick a guy 2nd or 3rd and then bench him for an entire year. That's not project quarterback territory. That's you pick the guy.
You're trying to pick a sure thing.
If you draft a guy in the top 5, no matter what position, you are starting him day 1 because he is that good. And so you. And whether or not that's the right approach, that's just kind of the perception of those players. So you draft a guy at number 3, and you say, all right, Trey Lance, you got to start right away. You're this ultra-talented kid. Go out there and make SportsCenter. And when he pretty much inevitably fails, even in a decent organization like the 49ers.
But it's also indicative of the problem of being picked number 1 or 2 or early in the draft is that you're going to a bad team.
Yeah.
You're going to a team that lost a lot of games. You're not going to a great situation likely. And so it puts a lot of extra pressure on those early draft picks to try to put it on their shoulders to resurrect the program. And that's too much to put on one person's shoulders.
Yeah.
So guys who get picked 10th or later in the first round or early second round, they're going to programs that know what they're doing, and they have other people around them that can help them grow and succeed. But these guys that get picked the top 5 or top 10 sometimes, they're going to bad programs. So it's no wonder they flame out, because it's too much to put on them, and they're going out there and they can't do it all. They need guys to block for them. They need guys to catch the ball. They need guys to defend and hold the other team at bay. So they're routinely thrown into really challenging situations.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence that the Browns and Jets keep getting to draft the most talented quarterback prospects, and they always fail.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a coincidence.
It's not the prospect's fault.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we got another text rolling in, a couple of texts actually, on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. We'll talk a little about NFL and NBA on Christmas as games, matchups being announced for a holiday that is 4 months away, 4.5 months away.
Yeah.
But start thinking about Christmas. The decorations
That's
can be
right.
found in Walmart aisle
Make your
9.
schedules.
That's next on the Full Court Press. Birdie's Golf Lounge has top-of-the-line launch monitors with 3 internal cameras that provide the most accurate readings for every part of the game. You can check them out. They're also their Swing AI coach system. All that at 650 North, 870 West. You can get memberships or hourly public bookings. You can get those as well. Check them out, Birdie's Golf Lounge. So a couple of texts on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 1818. So as a primer to this, Trey Campbell, a name that I've said maybe keep an eye on, mostly just whenever you're looking for potential transfers.
For college basketball.
Yeah, for college basketball, you're looking for guys who have ties. I wasn't trying to report anything, but he committed to Utah earlier today. Reports that he is committing to Utah. And so he's former Northern Iowa guard. That's why there's the connection to Ben Jacobson. 1818 texting saying over under 20% that Trey Campbell thought Ben Jacobson was the head coach of Utah before committing. I've seen that joke a couple of places.
It's not the first time I've seen that joke today.
Said, kidding aside, what a surprising signing. I don't know if he would have fit, but interesting. Yeah, it is weird that he ends up like so close to Utah State, but not at Utah State. I think the main thing that maybe would have kept him from coming here is just that, like, Trey Campbell, he's a guard, more specifically kind of a point guard. And you have Ace Reiser and AJ Bates. You also have a guy like Mason Falslev that can kind of handle some of those duties. There are actually a decent number of similarities between Campbell and Mason. In the broad strokes, if you watch Trey Campbell, he plays a lot differently than Mason, but like there are similar-ish roles to what Campbell and Mason did. So it's hard for him to step in and have that same kind of impact. Also, Utah State's out of money. Most are very likely close to out of money. Maybe that's why they're really pushing that July fundraiser to maybe get some extra money for basketball to sign one last player. But Utah, I don't know their roster, but I imagine he'll have a decent chance to make an impact there. They're a struggling program, and they could use a guy of Campbell's caliber.
Yeah, they could use somebody with experience. Yeah, and I think for Utah State, I mean, you've watched this team, you've watched this roster a little bit more than I have, but my hunch would be what this team needs is as a wing player. I think they've got the guard positions figured out, but they could probably use another wing player to help them out.
Yeah, and
add depth to that position.
And Campbell's not really wing. If you needed to, you could put him on the wing, but he's a lot more at home as an on-ball player, and you have several on-ball guards that you're already going to have really high in the rotation. So while you would have loved to have a guy like Campbell, he maybe wouldn't have seen it as a fit for him based on, the playing time and role he was maybe looking for. Though I don't know if he's going to get that at Utah again. I don't know Utah's roster in the slightest.
No.
So I'm not saying that's better because I don't know. I'm just presuming because Utah State's a little bit full at that position.
Yeah. Hey, just real quick, the NCAA, they were appealing this decision in Colorado for extra waivers and extra opportunity, extra eligibility for players. And it looks like they lost.
Yeah, the judge,
appeal.
They were appealing directly to the judge who made the ruling. She very expectedly said no, which basically that was the prerequisite to them going on to appeal it at a higher court. They honestly, if they had the choice, they probably would have just immediately appealed to a higher court. But like, you have to ask the judge, reconsider all that and the other, and then go and appeal it to someone who might actually, because there was no chance that Judge Sweeney was changing her mind.
Yeah. So the NCAA today, just in the last little bit, they have issued a notice to their member institutions saying that they are going to be appealing to the 10th Circuit, and they have ordered an expedited briefing on their request, and responses need to be, the deadline for a response is this Friday. So, the NCAA's reply brief has to be done no later than Monday. So there's still ongoing stuff here with this fifth year of eligibility. It's not totally decided yet. Still a chance the NCAA could weigh in on this and have move in their direction, but so it's just going to create a mess with these players declaring where they're headed, and they'll have to undo some of this if they get it their way. But it also could say, no, we agree with the order. But what could be interesting is if they open up a transfer opportunity and it makes it more blanket for these athletes rather than just having to go back to where they were before.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. We do need to take a break. We might end up punting on stat and player till tomorrow because we want to get to some of this NBA, NFL on Christmas talk we've been teasing. So we'll get to that next here on the Full Court Press as we wrap up the show. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. We're looking to wrap things up here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, and streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app and on YouTube. Kind of made fun of the Pac-12 for streaming live games on YouTube. That's exactly what we're doing here.
Yes.
We're streaming our stuff
there.
to YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
And
we got some comments on there. I don't know. Did you get those?
earlier, was it just the two? I got to them earlier in the show.
Okay.
Were there any more?
No.
And also on the one on OBS where it's like, where I can normally see the chat, it's wanting me to like log back into YouTube for some reason. Oh. So I haven't. If there were any more chat messages, I wouldn't have seen them because our streaming software is deciding to be unhelpful.
We did get this text from 5338 on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Interesting that the NFL is encroaching on the NBA on Christmas Day. They must smell blood in the water.
I think it's mostly the NFL just sees the NBA as a bug on their windshield because the NFL is just this monster of an organization where they're the king and everyone else just kind of has to deal with it.
Yep.
And honestly, the only reason the NFL doesn't encroach more on other areas is because in some cases there are laws preventing them. Like there are laws preventing them from having games on like Saturdays because of college football. So that's
and NFL is king. I mean, Look at the ratings they got for an early preseason game last week. 7 million viewers. That's more than any NHL game and more than most NBA games.
Yeah, a lot of NBA Finals games
like
don't
in
get
their
that
prime.
many.
Like there should be peak viewing of these sports, and a meaningless NFL preseason game outdrew those others.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. And like in the NFL encroached on Christmas last year. They had 2 or 3 games and they quadrupled the NBA's viewership. But here's the interesting thing, because a lot of people think, okay, everyone's just going to go watch the NFL and not watch the NBA anymore. Like Christmas was the NBA's day, and NBA fans were fiercely proud of Christmas NBA. Like even every Thanksgiving, you would hear a bunch of NBA fans be like, "Oh, NBA Christmas is better than NFL Thanksgiving." Everyone's like, "All right, okay, I'll keep watching NFL Thanksgiving."
Yeah.
And then I'd usually watch NBA Christmas. Usually, I watch it more these days because when you were a kid, you go play with the toys you got for Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you're an adult, it's like, okay, you open the couple of presents you gave to your family members, and then it's like, all right, what do we do now?
Yeah. Now what do we do?
And then so we go watch sports. But like the thing is, last year when the NFL encroached on NBA Christmas, the NBA still posted some of its best Christmas Day viewership last year.
Yeah.
They did even better, even when the NFL was pulling 20 plus million for all of their games. And I think part of it is that actually the games actually kind of like they don't overlap a ton. You can watch a lot of these, maybe there's 1 or 2 NFL games you want to watch and there's 1 or 2 Christmas games you want to watch. And like you don't
check in on both.
Yeah.
Too.
You don't necessarily have to pick one over the other. There's not like this. When I was just looking at the schedule of games, there's not this massive, there is some overlap because there's like 8 total games, something like that.
Yeah.
But like there's not this massive overlap where, there's an NFL game at 2 p.m., there's an NBA game at 2 p.m., and you have to pick one. Like basically everyone gets to watch a ton of sports. It's like that 24-hour college basketball thing we talked about.
That's true.
It's like a 12-hour marathon of NFL and NBA.
So the NFL games, the first 2 are on Netflix, 1 o'clock Eastern, so 11 o'clock a.m. our time. Green Bay, so we'll go see Jordan Love take on the Chicago Bears.
I don't have Netflix, so
find someone.
Somebody's not watching the NFL on Christmas.
Buffalo and Denver will kick off at 2:30. And then at 6:15, it's the Rams and the Seahawks on Fox. And so that'll actually be on over-the-air Fox.
So these are really good matchups.
Yeah, they really are.
Like I think they're better than last year. If I remember somebody commented, I didn't actually remember looking at exactly which specific ones they were, but they were ones that weren't as impactful. Like this one, you got rivalry games, division games, expected contenders in their conferences, at least in a couple of these games.
And for the NBA, their games are on ABC and ESPN, but it starts at 10 a.m. with the Spurs and the Knicks, a replay of the championship. You got Miami versus Boston at 12:30, the 76ers versus the Lakers at 3 in the afternoon. You got Oklahoma City versus Minnesota at 6, And then at 8:30, the nightcap is the Denver Nuggets versus the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. And, of course, the Warriors being on Christmas is still stupid. But when you got Steph Curry.
Yep, he's still a draw.
Yeah. So, and of course, it'll be interesting. Like, I know the one person said, there'll be history made with LeBron James and Bronny, the first father-son matchup on Christmas Day. And I was like, isn't it the first father-son matchup, period?
Yeah.
Father-son duos haven't really been a thing in the NBA.
No.
So, we'll see. But the matchups are fantastic for both sports. I think there's a lot of interesting things for both the NBA and NFL. So, the winners in all of this, like the NBA might be a little nervous that, they managed to do perfectly well last year with the NFL encroaching on Christmas. Maybe they're worried a little bit this year, but the winner in the end is the sports fan. Yeah. People who aren't really worried about debating which of the NFL or NBA is better, we just enjoy both.
The NBA also announced its opening week. The tip-off will be Boston versus Detroit, 76ers versus New York, and then Oklahoma City versus San Antonio. So some spicy matchups to kick off the NBA season.
I think the full schedule will be announced. I saw one report said it was going to be announced Thursday, so maybe we'll have some to talk about then with the Utah Jazz. That'll do it for us today. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We'll be back at it tomorrow here on The Fan.